The council chamber of the galactic Concord hung like a living jewel in the luminous heart of the core, a vast sphere of sentient crystal where 1,000 species had debated, schemed, and forged fragile peace for 12,000 cycles. Tonight the crystal sang with urgent alarm, a low resonant hum that vibrated through every facet and scale in the room, sending ripples of unease across the assembled delegates. High Archivist Verakal, whose faceted body refracted starlight into shifting rainbows of ancient knowledge, projected the anomaly high above the central dais. It was a modest yellow star on the far galactic fringe, unremarkable in every way except for the tiny blue-green world orbiting it, a world every database swore should have been a barren rock, scoured clean by cosmic rays and radiation long ago. The signal is impossible, Verakal intoned, voice like wind through shattered chimes that carried the weight of forgotten ages. It carries the exact quantum signature of the Makers, the legendary beings who lit the first stable stars and wove the hyperspace web long before our ancestors crawled from primordial seas. Warlord Thrax, a towering reptilian whose claws had toppled empires across 3 galactic arms, leaned forward with a contemptuous hiss that echoed off the crystal walls. Ghost stories for hatchlings. The Makers vanished eons ago. Every ambitious species has claimed their bloodline when it suited them. None ever proved it. Then explain this, Verakal replied calmly, and the hologram zoomed smoothly inward. On the blue world's surface, primitive towers of steel and glass still stood defiant against the weight of time. Lights still burned in orderly grid patterns across the night side. Rising from a scarred continent was a single slender ship, crude by Concord standards, patched and welded together with what looked like hope and stubbornness, yet broadcasting on the forbidden Maker frequency that once commanded the very fabric of space itself. The chamber erupted in a storm of 1,000 languages at once, voices overlapping in panic and disbelief. Quarantine the entire sector immediately. Purge the signal before it spreads like a virus. Burn the world before the infection takes hold and threatens us all. Predator species bared teeth and claws, their instincts flaring. Prey species huddled closer to their delegations, eyes wide with fear. The air thickened with a palpable mix of outrage and growing dread. The great crystal doors hissed open with a sound like gentle falling rain on a distant world. A single human walked in. Captain Alara Voss wore a faded blue jumpsuit patched at the elbows and knees from years of hard use in the cold void. Her dark hair was tied back practically, and her eyes were the calm gray of storm-tossed oceans that had seen too much and kept sailing anyway. She carried no weapon, only a small metal cylinder tucked under one arm. A simple shoulder patch read, Soulforge Recovery Division, Captain. Every predator species in the room tensed instinctively, muscles coiling. Prey species edged away as far as protocol allowed. Even the air seemed to thicken around her small, unassuming frame. Verakal's facets flickered rapidly in visible shock, colors shifting wildly. You are human. Voss offered a small, tired smile that somehow carried the quiet weight of 12,000 years of waiting and surviving. We still prefer that name. Yet Warlord Thrax rose to his full 3-meter height, scales rippling with barely contained rage. Primitives. Your species barely achieved orbit the last time our probes glanced your miserable death world. How did you reach the core in a ship that looks like it was built with scrap metal, hope, and sheer stubbornness? Voss met his gaze without flinching, her storm gray eyes steady. Same way our ancestors built your stars, she answered quietly. One impossible problem at a time. A nervous laugh rippled through the delegates, but it died quickly when Voss tapped the small metal cylinder. An ancient star map bloomed across the entire chamber, impossibly precise. Every major hyperspace lane, every artificial sun in the core, every stable gate carrying the same subtle mathematical watermark that no species had been able to replicate in 12,000 years. Human. 12,000 years ago, she continued, voice steady and clear so every being could hear, humanity launched the Great Seeding. We engineered stable stars so life could bloom across the void. We wove the hyperspace web so younger species could one day travel safely between them. Then we returned home to Sol to finish our own work, healing our death world, raising our children, dreaming of a galaxy that would one day be ready for us. A cascade failure in the anchor beacons cut us off. Time dilation and forgotten protocols did the rest. While the galaxy grew up around our scaffolding, we survived ice ages, wars, pandemics, and our own worst mistakes on one stubborn little rock circling a yellow sun. She let the heavy silence stretch, letting every species feel the weight of those lost millennia. The crystal chamber seemed to hold its breath. You turned our highways into toll roads, and our greatest works into half-forgotten myths. You forgot the hands that lit the stars because it was easier to believe in gods or ancient titans than to admit that primitives from a death world could out-engineer you all. Thrax slammed a massive claw onto the dais, cracking the living crystal with a sharp report that echoed like thunder. Lies. The makers were beings of pure light and perfect order. You are soft, small, weak, nothing more than an insignificant footnote. Voss's small smile never wavered. Then why does your emergency beacon play the exact lullaby our children once sang to the stars when they were afraid of the dark? She activated the cylinder with a soft click. Across every screen, every holographic display in the chamber, the same message appeared in perfect high Concordian, glowing with quiet authority. Maintenance overdue. Owner override initiating in T-minus 60 seconds. Soulforge humanity. Priority Alpha. The chamber exploded into pure chaos. Delegates shouted. Security drones spun in confusion, and alarms began to wail across the galaxy as the first hyperspace gates froze in place. Voss simply said, calm as still water in the middle of a storm. We noticed the lights were flickering. We came to fix them. She turned toward the great crystal doors as the alarms grew louder. The sound of a galaxy suddenly realizing its foundations belonged to someone else. See you soon, she called softly over her shoulder, the words carrying a promise and a warning at the same time. The doors closed behind her with a gentle hiss. In the stunned silence that followed, a young avian delegate from a minor species, barely old enough to have a vote, whispered the words that would echo through the stars for centuries to come. They never left. They just waited for us to grow up. The stunned silence stretched for several long heartbeats. Then the chamber erupted again. But this time the tone had shifted from outrage to something far more dangerous. Dawning realization mixed with fear. High Archivist Varical's facets dimmed and brightened rapidly, cycling through colors of disbelief. The override, it is already propagating. Gates are locking. The entire hyperspace network is acknowledging the Soulforge key as its rightful owner. Warlord Thrax slammed both claws onto the dais, cracking it further. Impossible. Shut it down. Trace the signal and glass that pathetic blue rock before they finish what they started. But even as he roared the order, every holographic display in the chamber flickered once more, and showed the same live feed, the human ship, small and unassuming, already turning away from the core, and heading back toward the fringe, back toward Sol. On its hull, barely visible, was a simple painted symbol, a child's stick-figure hand reaching up to touch a bright yellow star. Bifracol projected the ancient records side by side with the new data. The mathematical signatures matched perfectly. The quantum fingerprints were identical. There was no denying it anymore. The makers were human, the archivist whispered, voice cracking like fragile crystal. They built the stars we have worshipped as gods. They left the lights on for us, and now, they have come home to check on their work. A young crystalline aide beside Varicol spoke up, voice trembling with awe. What do we do now? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Across the galaxy, the first effects were already being felt. Hyperspace gates refused new destinations. Fleets hung motionless in the void. Trade routes froze. For the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy was forced to wait. Back in the chamber, Voss's final words replayed on every screen in her calm, steady voice. We noticed the lights were flickering. We came to fix them. See you soon. The young avian delegate who had whispered earlier now stood taller, feathers ruffled with quiet determination. They waited 12,000 years while we played empires on their scaffolding. They survived their death world alone. And when the lights started to fail, they returned, not with conquest, but with a toolbox and a reminder. Thrax snarled, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. They are still small, still weak. We can fight them. Varicol turned slowly, facets glowing softly. Fight the ones who built the very roads we travel? Fight the engineers who lit the stars we navigate by? Warlord, perhaps it is time we asked ourselves a different question. The archivist projected one final image, a simple children's drawing from Earth, transmitted along with the original signal. Stick-figure humans and dozens of alien shapes stood together under a bright yellow sun, holding hands. Beneath it, in clear text that every species could read, were the words we built the stars so our children could share them. Come home when you are ready to play nicely. The chamber fell quiet once more, the kind of silence that comes before a galaxy changes forever. Somewhere far away on the little blue death world, Captain Alara Voss stepped off her ship onto familiar soil. She looked up at the night sky, now brighter, steadier, more alive than it had been in millennia, and allowed herself a small, exhausted smile. The makers had returned, not as gods demanding worship, not as conquerors demanding tribute, just as tired, stubborn engineers who had kept the lights on for 12,000 years, and finally come back to make sure they still worked for everyone. And this is only the beginning. Part 2 is already on the way. If you want to see what happens next, make sure you're subscribed. Drop a comment if you're still watching.